All right, welcome back to another After Dark, everybody. As promised, I got something special for you guys here. This is by Trice, and it's called Encore, the story of Michael Jordan's Real Last Dance documentary. I checked out a couple of minutes of this earlier today, and I just stopped right away, and I was like, this is something for the channel for sure. So I wanted to check this out together. I hope you guys are having a good night so far. Hope you guys had a good day. And as always, I'm going to leave the Trice video down below in the description. So if you want to watch it without my commentary, feel free. Everybody else, grab yourself some snacks and a drink. Let's kick back, relax, and enjoy this one. So the way this is presented is if the Last Dance documentary, which is awesome because I'm literally rewatching it right now, didn't end in 98. It continued on to be the rest of Michael Jordan's legacy. So let's check it out. Here we go.
Jordan open. Chicago with the lead. The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship.
Most clutch shot ever.
I guess by now that pretty much everyone in the country who's listening at all knows that Michael Jordan is retiring again from professional basketball.
I am here to announce my retirement from the game of basketball.
I had my great reign in basketball. No matter what you guys say, or if I come and hang around the game because I still love the game, that doesn't mean I'm coming back to it.
Oh, I remember that.
Speculation.
That clip is that from him is when he went back in 99. Because some dude on the Bulls, some young buck was saying I could take Jordan one-on-one, and then Jordan came back and annihilated him. I'm reacting to that one soon too. Somebody put that in my comments, and I can't believe I haven't shown that here yet. We're gonna check that out together.
Has ended. Rumors confirmed. The greatest player of all time is back, and he's wearing a Wizards uniform.
Yep. Man, so much to say. That's the original announcer that was announcing Jordan all those years with the Bulls. And yeah, he got to do it one last time for the opposing team. All right. Few people in this world are ever able to be the best at what they do forever. And a list of people that are rarely find themselves in a very competitive field to begin with. Facts. Good quote.
The story of Michael Jordan needs no introduction. The tales of his journey to becoming one of the greatest athletes the world has ever seen, from being cut by his high school varsity team to the flu game, have been told countless times, some becoming somewhat legends themselves. However, for many, the journey of Jordan as a basketball icon ends the day he hung up his Bulls jersey. The headlines end, the documentary stops filming, and the spotlight fades away. And while that was the last time the world saw Michael at his most memorable, the reality is that's not where the story ends. There's more chapters in his legacy that deserve to be explored. A brief moment in time where we saw one of the game's greats try to defy Father Time. And for a split second, maybe he did.
Yeah, he sure as hell started to.
Following Jordan's retirement after winning his 6th championship in Chicago, professional basketball moved on just like it does after all great players retire. MJ had distanced himself from the game as much as possible, occasionally stopping into the facilities to play pickup games, but trying hard to avoid speculation he would ever. It wasn't on the court.
Now, do you ever have second thoughts? Do you ever say, like today, I just feel like I should be playing?
No, I don't regret my decision at all. I think it's the appropriate one. Or else no one else will have an opportunity to win if I keep playing.
That's what they used to say, too. They can't win until we quit. They can't win until we quit. And then, unfortunately, the Bulls ownership blew it up.
After being away from the game of basketball for almost 2 years, in January of 2000, Michael Jordan agreed to a 5-year deal to become the head of basketball operations for the Washington Wizards. This included a minority stake in the ownership of the team, which was set to raise to 20% if the Wizards exceeded expectations. In his time off the court, Jordan had become increasingly interested in running a franchise, even trying to purchase the then Charlotte Hornets before the deal fell through.
You were going to buy a team. What, it was the Hornets, right, Charlotte? Yeah.
Well, actually, they came to me. I think I didn't search out their opportunity.
Right.
They came to me and said, well, what do you think about it? And I evaluated it, and it just didn't fit. I wanted to have a lot more control than what they were willing to give. And respectfully, I mean, he made the choice that he wanted to make, and I don't disagree with that. I mean, I'm happy that he did, but I could not participate if I couldn't make the final decision on my money.
Michael's new role allowed him total freedom to build a franchise the way he wanted, something that he wasn't sure of, saying, quote, "This is new to me. Being in charge is something that I never had the opportunity to do. Maybe that's not the ingredient to turn this thing around. Then again, it may be. That's the beauty of trying."
I love that. I love that. We can't succeed unless we try. And success isn't sweet unless we failed before. That's the beauty of life.
Jordan had his ups and downs in his first offseason in control, choosing to reach for high school standout Kwame Brown with the #1 overall pick in the 2001 NBA draft. Brown would go on to have a 12-year NBA career, where he put up respectable numbers but never lived up to the expectations of a #1 overall pick. In the meantime, Michael was left with the task of rebuilding a team that had finished with the second worst record in the entire NBA.
All right, everybody, let's remember this. Let's remember this. That's what Jordan inherited, okay? 19-63. That's what the Wizards were, okay? Because a lot of people don't put this into context, how bad this team was.
Second worst record in the entire NBA.
Yeah, worst team.
How would the greatest competitor the game had ever seen on the court be able to turn around a franchise off of it? However, instead of bringing in a new front office, reevaluating the roster, and bringing in young assets to replace the older players on the roster, Jordan chose to do something different. On April 20, 2001, the Wizards announced the hiring of 49-year-old Doug Collins to become the team's new head coach. Collins had been the coach of a young Michael Jordan during his early years as a Bull, and had been out of the league since 1998. Naturally, this raised some speculation about whether or not Jordan was considering a comeback.
Real quick, just because I just got done watching the episode last night, one thing we don't talk about a lot here is why Doug Collins got fired. And it seems it's clear as day on the documentary. They all talk about it. It's because he didn't want to run the triangle offense, because Tex was already there. Phil was already there as assistants, but he refused to go to the triangle offense. Phil was embracing it through Tex, and eventually, that was kind of the ultimatum. So they let Doug go because they really believed the triangle offense was going to work, and it did. So no offense to Doug. Doug is a really good coach, but that's the reason he got fired from the Bulls.
Over the course of the offseason, Jordan hadn't made any changes besides adding his own former head coach and drafting a promising big man to the roster, failing to land many younger players or assets to the team. Now,
Popeye
with
Jones, crazy eyes, Popeye Jones.
One quickly approaching, some big questions were being raised in D.C. Just as the media had speculated for months prior, on September 25, 2001, a 38-year-old Michael Jordan announced his return to the game of basketball. After almost 3 years, the greatest player the game had ever seen was making a comeback to the hardwood. The move was met by a mixture of excitement and concern, with many die-hard fans believing Jordan could ruin the storybook ending to his career.
That was my brother, by the way, he still to this day says that Jordan ruined his legacy by coming back. I'm so different than him, man, because for me, I celebrated immediately. I'm like, oh crap, bonus round, more Michael Jordan. And then when it was all said and done and he retired again, still to this day, I consider this gravy. That was candy. That was just bonus. That was a gift. We got to see the greatest of all time play 2 more seasons. Fantastic.
However, none of this fazed Michael. The entire offseason leading up to the 2001 season, Jordan had been quietly training to get back into playing shape, inviting many of the top players from around the NBA to come play organized pickup games.
Just as I started to play against some of the players who played in the league, see if I could get some of my moves off, maintain some type of consistency to stay with them. Although I know this is not, in the summer is not the same as the season, I was looking for any kind of signs that would give me the motivation that, hey, if I get and start working fitness-wise, I get myself in good shape. I can compete. I can make this thing work.
That's the key, by the way. I can compete. That's MJ right there, man. If he wanted a ring chase, he would have gone to either Portland or LA. But he chose to restart the way he started. Like he started with the trash Bulls in the 80s, and took them from one of the worst teams straight to the top, over a couple of years. He was trying to do it again with the Wizards. Take the worst team in the league and see what kind of a difference he can make.
On October 30th, 2001, Michael Jordan made his return to the NBA in Madison Square Garden against the Knicks. The build-up to the game made it one of the most anticipated matchups of the year, as the last time the world had seen Jordan on the court was the '98 Finals. Michael would score his first basket less than 2 minutes into the game, having an up-and-down game on his way to a 19-point outing. With 18 seconds left, the Wizards had the ball with the chance to tie the game. Everyone in the Garden that night knew who would take the shot, and it seemed like this was the beginning of a new chapter in Jordan's legacy.
By the Wizards, Michael Jordan, with Whitney's have the hot hand. Wizards down by 3. Jordan for the tie.
Short. What's that mean, everybody? I'll give you a couple seconds. You come up short at the end of a game, especially the first game of the season. What's that tell you? He's got no legs yet. No legs yet. He wasn't in game shape yet. 7 for 21, so 33%, 19 points, 0 for 3 from 3. Yep. Hey, that's a start.
Rebound by Kurt Thomas. Built into the floor and a foul.
The Wizards would go on to lose by 2 in their opening game, and leave many people wondering if Jordan had made the right decision in his return.
It's so funny how quick they jump on it. It's his first game back.
As the early season wore on, Washington got off to a slow start, winning only 2 of their first 11 games and struggling to find chemistry. Though they were far from competing for championships, Jordan still had championship expectations in practice, pushing some of the young players harder than many of them were ready for.
Well, like I tell people, Michael was fun. He had a unique personality. But then there was also another side where it was the talk and trash Michael Jordan. And at times, me and a couple of the young guys would come up to him and say, "Hey, Mike, why don't you think about putting us in the brand Jordan collection?"
Right.
And he'd look at me and say, "Hey, Rip, my sneakers for AllStars."
Yep. Hey, that's fair though. If that was the case, he'd have to put like every player who asked, which would be everybody. They'd all get their own signature sneaker. That ain't gonna happen. That'll water down the brand. That was Rick Hamilton, by the way, who eventually did become one of the great players in the league. Shout out to him. But this was like baby Rick. He was just getting started.
In addition to this, the team was struggling with the newfound national spotlight. Though they had gotten off to a rough start, MJ was still must-see TV, and the Wizards had gone from 28th in the league in attendance to selling out every home game, and found themselves on national TV almost every night. An overtime win against the Celtics sparked 16 wins over their next 25 games, putting them on pace to make the playoffs for the first time since being eliminated by none other than Jordan and the Bulls back in 1997.
I mean, he was about to do exactly for the Wizards that he did for the Bulls. Take them from a trash team to fighting their way into the playoffs. And then people shame Jordan for losing to the Bucks as a rookie in the playoffs. No, the accomplishment was taking a trash team to the playoffs. He almost did it with Washington too, man. At 39 years old, almost did it.
Cheney down at the buzzer, and the Bulls have won and have eliminated the Washington Bullets.
The Bullets, that's
Over
right.
this stretch, Michael was averaging over 25 points per game, showcasing a scoring ability that many people didn't think he still had. Specifically after a bad loss against the Pacers, Jordan was out to prove that he could still play.
When I was coaching in Washington, we played the Indiana Pacers, and we were down 25 at the end of the third quarter. And I took Michael out of the game, and I said, look, Michael, I know you think we can still win this game, but we got to play, in 2 nights. And if we make a little run, I'll put you back in the game. Well, we didn't. Well, I found out that after the game was over that he had 8 points in the game, and he broke a streak of like 860-something games in double figures.
Yeah.
Fast forward, we get on the plane, get back about 3:30 in the morning in Washington. We play the New Jersey Nets the next night.
Charlotte Hornets.
And Michael scores the first 3 times he has the ball. Byron Scott takes a timeout, and Michael comes over and he says, I want the ball right there the rest of the game, and don't take me out till I tell you. And so that's fine by me. So with 2 minutes to go in the game, he gives me the sign like, that's enough. I take him out of the game. He walks over to the bench. I said, Michael, what happened tonight? He said, well, the guy who was guarding me was told me his back was hurting. Don't ever tell me you got a problem. He said, I'll make you pay for that. 51 points later.
That's why I always say, today's league, where we got certain players, y'all know who I'm talking about, who go as far as to even fake injuries to get attention. It goes so against the old code of sports, which is hide your injuries. Jordan says it. That's the reason. Doug Collins just said it straight. Why? Because a real killer is going to exploit that weakness of yours now and destroy you. So this whole, I'm pretending to break my wrist or whatever for attention, there's no other reason to do that other than accepting the fact you're going to lose, and that's the predetermined reason why you're going to lose. You've already accepted it. You're a loser at that point. You're not trying to win.
51 points at age 41. He came back the next game with 46.
Yeah, we covered those.
And he looked at me and said, I told you I could still play.
So he went from 8 for the first time, not scoring 10 or more, and God knows how many years that was. I can't remember anymore. Doug said it a minute ago. To scoring 8 points in a blowout, and then getting pissed off, and then scoring 51, and then was that 45?
51 points later. 51 points at age 41. He came back the next game with 46.
Yeah, so 51 and then 46 back to back after scoring 8. He was 40 years old, by the way, not 41 at that time.
He looked at me and said, I told you I could still play.
Yep.
Jordan's 51-point performance against the Hornets was the record for points in a game by someone over the age of 38 at the time, and was followed up by a 45-point outing the very next game against the Nets, proving that MJ was still capable of being one of the game's best players even past his prime. During these 2 games, Michael was scoring at will, getting to all his spots with ease and showcasing a veteran skill set that was much different from the Jordan we've seen in the past. Crafty layups around the rim replaced high-flying dunks, and fadeaway elbow jumpers filled the stat sheet instead of acrobatic finishes. Michael Jordan was no longer the player the world fell in love with in Chicago, but one thing remained the same. He could still prove all the critics wrong.
Yeah, this was fundamental Mike. It was really enjoyable to watch, especially as he was getting stronger and stronger and healthier. It was all fundamentals. The pump fake, his pump fake became so damn good. I can only compare it to Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant actually has the best pump fake I've ever seen because he's relentless with it. He'll pump fake 10 times if he has to until he catches you. But MJ was doing a lot of that similar stuff in Washington, and it was awesome to see. He was a mid-range assassin.
Heading into the All-Star break, Michael Jordan was on pace that things were headed in the right direction. Everything changed the last game before All-Star Weekend.
Off the glass, what a shot.
Yeah.
And he's down and he's hurt. He hurt his knee.
Jordan would collide with teammate Eton Thomas, resulting in a lateral tear in his meniscus. He would try to push through the injury, but after losing 9 out of the next 10 games while trying to fight through the pain, he finally had enough.
All right, did you hear that part, by the way? By the way, torn meniscus, I know what that feels like. It sucks. But I'm going to replay this part, okay? Compared to this to modern players who load manage, This is what an old 39-year-old Michael Jordan was doing.
After losing 9 out of the next 10 games while trying to fight through the pain, he finally had enough.
So he played 10 more games with the torn meniscus at 39 years old. He wanted to win that badly. And then finally he called it because it was time to get treated.
On February 27th, Jordan elected to have arthroscopic knee surgery to repair the torn cartilage in his knee, and after attempting to make a second return that season, decided to sit out for the rest of the year. Jordan's first season with the Wizards was filled with ups and downs on the scoreboard, but Michael had proven that he could still compete with the NBA's best.
Absolutely.
He averaged 22 points per game and led the team with 5 assists, helping to lead the Wizards to an 18-win improvement over the previous season. Now there were multiple questions surrounding the future of Jordan in Washington, and the 2002 offseason could determine the future of the franchise.
I mean, we're talking about a half a season in, and the dude is already top 10 in the league. Like, he's already worked himself up to that point, and he was just climbing. Where he would have ended that season, who knows? It was such an awesome progression every single game to see how much he was improving day to day.
The 2002 offseason marked a crossroads for the Wizards organization. With Jordan announcing he would return for the following season, the team was left with 2 options. Should they bring in young talent to help build for the future, or should they trade away their young assets to bring in some players that would help the team win now, with Michael's playing days inevitably numbered? Not surprisingly, the team chose to do the former, signing an established scorer in Larry Hughes and trading away a young Rip Hamilton to the Pistons.
That image. I talk about this image so often. That's MJ hitting a game winner and doing his classic pose, and then a young babyface Rick Hamilton mimicking it right next to him, side by side. I love that photo so much. It just it transcends generations. You know, it's so cool. It's so cool.
For Jerry Stackhouse. Hamilton was coming off the best year in his young career and would go on to win 2 championships with Detroit and make multiple All-Star teams.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Stackhouse had established himself as one of the NBA's best players over the years, averaging 29.8 points per game just 1 year prior. If the direction was uncertain before, these moves confirmed the Wizards' intentions. It was now or never to make a playoff push. Some people would question these moves at the time, wondering why a franchise would throw many of their young assets to the side in hopes of winning with a going on 40-year-old Michael Jordan. That being said, the stage was set for what would become MJ's final NBA season, and the spotlight on Washington was brighter than ever. Michael's second year in Washington took on a much different look from the first. With Jordan still nursing his lingering knee injury from the year prior, he elected to come off the bench as the 6th man for the beginning of the season. Injuries would take a toll on the Wizards throughout the first half of the season, causing MJ to eventually take his place back in the starting lineup. Interestingly enough, he would be the only one on the roster to play in all 82 games that season, averaging an insane 37 minutes per game at the age of 40. The team itself was inconsistent throughout the season, never overcoming the 500 mark and just barely being out of playoff contention in a weakened East for the majority of the year.
Ooh, how did he get that pass off? By the way, I always pause it at the worst images. That is not flattering. But at 40 years old, man, the guy not only he's playing 37 minutes again, but you see him diving all over the court. You see him doing this stuff. Like putting his body in jeopardy for a team that more than likely won't even make the playoffs, and he's sacrificing his body like this. Crazy, man.
Barely being out of playoff contention.
All right, hold on. How does he get this pass off? Look at this. It's a classic move by MJ.
Never overcoming the 500 mark and just barely being out of playoff contention in a weakened East for the majority.
How did he do that? He flipped it over everybody. That's not normal. That is not a normal pass.
Of the year. While Stackhouse had become the primary threat offensively, Jordan remained the highlight of the team throughout the season, averaging 20 points per game on the year and scoring over 40 points per game in 3 games that season, including becoming the only player in NBA history to score more than 40 at the age of 40.
Mm-hmm.
The most memorable moment came at 2003's AllStar Weekend, where Jordan would be voted in for his final AllStar appearance.
Oh, man.
Atlanta was buzzing.
This story sucks. I hate this story. It almost ended perfectly.
Nostalgia, as people had begun to realize this was the last time we would see Michael alongside the NBA's best. Though he'd been voted in as a reserve for the game, numerous players offered Jordan their starting spot, which he eventually accepted from Vince Carter. The game itself serves as one of the last iconic moments we have of Jordan on the hardwood. Michael went toe-to-toe with some of the very players who had grown up idolizing him, and finally got to have a face-off with a student of his own game, Kobe Bryant.
Mike, after you face the ball, where else you gonna go?
You left your feet.
Yeah, but where else you gonna go?
In the game, I go for you.
I spun all the way around.
I go for these ribs right here.
At halftime, Jordan was honored
it.
with a tribute from Mariah Carey, a performance that served as the perfect send-off from the NBA's biggest stage. However, this tribute wasn't the only glimpse of vintage Jordan that would be seen that night. With the game on the line and the East in possession,
Look at that, with Dirk on him.
everyone in the arena knew who was taking the shot.
Michael has the ball, again guarded by Shawn Marion. The fadeaway, yes!
It might be my favorite shot of Jordan's career right there.
4 and 8/10 seconds remaining. The West takes a timeout.
While the game would end up being won by the West in double overtime, Michael had given the world one last moment to add to his legend, something that many thought they would never see again. Michael Jordan would play his last professional basketball game on April 16, 2003 against the 76ers. The basketball-loving Philly crowd was electric, and everyone wanted to get a glimpse of Michael's last moments on the hardwood. The game itself didn't have much to offer. Jordan struggled from the field and eventually took a seat with the game out of reach. But chants from the crowd for Mike to step back onto the court for one last time at the end of the game were met with Jordan slowly getting out of his seat and making his way to the scorer's table. Michael would be intentionally fouled and hit 2 shots at the free throw line for the final points of his NBA career. It wasn't the storybook ending that Jordan's last game in Chicago had been. There were no championships on the line, no national spotlight, and no game winner. The greatest player that had ever touched a basketball to that day walked off the court and into the darkness of the tunnel for the final time. Michael Jordan's return to the game of basketball in Washington will always be seen by many as an eyesore to his storybook career.
No, man, I remember this so fondly. So fondly.
The images of him jogging his way up and down NBA courts in a Wizards uniform against NBA stars who were much younger than him will always pale in comparison to the memories of him flying through the air in Chicago and winning championships. But to ignore the way the story ends means you miss out on the beauty of his final moments on the hardwood. Very few people ever get to be the best at what they do forever, but even fewer get the opportunity to return past their prime and prove that they still have a glimpse of what made them great.
I love it. I love the way he words that. Yeah, for sure.
Jordan's last years with the Wizards gave Michael the chance to face off against some of what would become the NBA's next wave of star players, meaning he had played against 3 generations of the best the game had to offer. No, Michael wasn't the same dominant player that the world fell in love with, but at the age of 40, he was still able to compete at the game's highest level, even proving at times that he was still one of the best players in the world. Time doesn't slow down for anyone, but to be able to defy time for even a moment, the same way he seemed to once defy gravity, is what made Jordan's time with the Wizards so special.
Trice High. Wonderful video. I've seen a couple other videos from Trice and fantastic productions, as you can see right here. If you enjoyed this, I mean, do I even have to say it? Go check out Trice's channel. Give him a subscribe. You won't regret it. Excuse me. Well, I've been wanting to react to this one for a little while here, so I'm glad we got to do it. Yeah, like I said, after watching the first 2 minutes or so, I realized for sure, like, oh, I think this is something special. This was a fantastic video. Trice, shout out to you. Amazing work, amazing work. This is the final chapter of The Last Dance. Like, this is how it should have ended. But I understand why it didn't, because they were covering the Bulls. But if this was an actual Jordan documentary, this is how it needed to end, because these are important. Just like his first couple of seasons in the Bulls, they weren't champions immediately, They had their heartbreaks and their trials and tribulations. Well, it ended that way too. And I think it's those trials and tribulations that make those 6 championships such an amazing and beautiful thing. Because if you just came into the league and you started winning right away and you always win, well, what's so special about that? It's the hero's journey to watch them fail and then grow and grow and eventually become the king, beyond the top of the mountain, become Goliath. That's what we celebrate in sports. But anyways, before I blab too much here, everybody, I appreciate you watching this. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. I mean, you guys know I nerd out on the Wizards era of Michael Jordan's career. I absolutely loved it back then, and I appreciate it even more now. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it. Give me a big old fat dislike if you didn't like this. And subscribe to the channel if you want more. I'll be back tomorrow with another one, all right? I'd like to thank you all for watching. And as always, I'm having a great time. I'll see you all tomorrow, okay? Peace out.